Somewhere in Southeast Asia, where the sun breaks through thick tropical clouds and the earth trembles in the shadow of still active volcanoes, lies an archipelago as diverse as it is deadly. Indonesia. More than 17,000 islands emerge from the ocean like scattered fragments of a forgotten continent. Some are surrounded by crystal-clear waters where coral reefs sparkle like jewels. Others are covered in jungles so dense that even sunlight cannot fully penetrate. This paradise, simultaneously heavenly and merciless, is home to one of the largest concentrations of wildlife on the planet. But here, beauty is not synonymous with peace. Indonesia is a kingdom ruled by predators, a world where every second can mean the difference between life and death, a stage where the rules are dictated not by compassion, but by necessity. In this natural theater, each creature has developed unique strategies to hunt, ambush, flee, or kill. From the heights to the depths of the ocean, the fight for survival never stops. In the jungles of Sumatra, the air is thick, charged with humidity and mystery. The trees rise like living cathedrals, with vines hanging like ancient curtains and leaves as large as shields. In this green world, every shadow hides a threat. Gibbon monkeys let out high-pitched cries from the treetops, not for fun, but to warn of the presence of a hunter moving stealthily through the undergrowth. The Sumatran tiger. Hundreds of miles to the east, on the arid plains of the Lesser Sunda Islands, another predator lurks. It doesn't have long fangs or intimidating roars, but it possesses something more lethal: patience and venom. It's the Komodo dragon, the largest lizard on the planet. It roams among thorny bushes and parched earth, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One bite is enough. The venom will do the rest. In the skies, the rules change. Soaring over the Philippine Islands, a majestic hunter solemnly spreads his wings. The eagle, considered one of the most powerful birds in the world, needs only a couple of seconds to pounce on an unsuspecting monkey, snatching it with its sharp talons. From above, death arrives without warning, and underwater, terror glides gracefully. The reef shark patrols the coral's edges like a sentinel of flesh and scales. It doesn't need to run, its mere presence keeps the unwary at bay. A shadow, a flash of silver, and the feast begins. But it's not just the giants that inspire fear. Even in the smallest corners of this vast country, miniature predators display their unreserved ferocity. Praying mantises that devour their mates after mating, giant wasps that paralyze their prey with a single sting, tree snakes that strike like lightning into birds' nests. The scale may be minute, but the brutality knows no bounds. Indonesia's ecosystems have shaped these hunters over millions of years. High temperatures, constant humidity, abundant prey, and constant competition have sculpted an extraordinarily adapted fauna. Here, each predator has evolved to occupy a specific niche. Nothing is random. Every stride, every flight, every leap has been perfected by the urgency to survive. In the vast marshes of northern Borneo, the saltwater crocodile rests partially submerged. Its body blends in with the floating logs. Not even the slightest movement betrays its presence. But when an unsuspecting deer approaches to drink, the silence is broken by an explosion of water, teeth, and muscle. There is no warning. There is no second chance. Meanwhile, deep in the Indonesian jungles, the dole, also known as the Asiatic wild dog, roams the leaf-covered trails with its pack. It doesn't hunt alone. It relies on the power of cooperation. Its prey rarely escapes. Each member has a role. One distracts, another ambushes, the rest finish off. In the cover of night, when the jungle becomes a concert of crickets, frogs, and mysteries, the reticulated python emerges from its hiding place. Its body is as long as a bus, and its strength is enough to suffocate a wild boar. Its attack is soundless, only the silent pressure of a lethal embrace. When the prey finally stops moving, the feast begins. This is a world where weakness is unforgivable, where every species has learned to hunt or be hunted, where time gives no respite, and mistakes are paid for with death. Indonesia, with its infinite biodiversity, is not just an exotic paradise. It's a natural battlefield, where each predator wages its own silent war, invisible to most, but crucial to the balance of the ecosystem. Islands, isolated for millions of years, have generated unique species. Some predators, like the Sumatran tiger, exist nowhere else in the world. Others, like the orca and the shark, have adapted to the peculiarities of the island environment, hunting in ways that can only be seen here, and many more remain undiscovered by the human eye. And yet, this balance is fragile. Deforestation, wildlife trafficking, and the pollution of rivers and oceans threaten the survival of these predators. When one of them disappears, the entire system trembles. Because in this delicate dance between hunter and prey, every move counts. But before we delve into the looming tragedy, it's time to pay tribute to these wild beings. Welcome to Wild Indonesia, here, where every corner holds a secret, and where predators reign mercilessly. It's time to discover their stories. The sun beats down relentlessly on the islands of Komodo, Rinca, and Flores. The vegetation, though abundant, looks wasted from the lack of rain. The land is arid, dotted with dry bushes and dusty roads. In this landscape, seemingly straight out of a bygone era, lives a creature that could easily have walked alongside the dinosaurs, the Komodo dragon. This colossal lizard, which can exceed 3 meters in length and weigh up to 70 kilos, is the largest reptile on the planet. Its mere presence commands respect. With its rough, scaly skin, flattened head, piercing eyes, and forked tongue that swipes with a disturbing rhythm, the dragon doesn't need to move to intimidate. Its figure is that of a relentless, patient, and dangerous predator. He walks slowly, but not for lack of strength. Every step is calculated. Every movement measures his surroundings. At first glance, one would think he's clumsy, that his heavy gait renders him harmless. But that's his greatest deception. His true speed is revealed at the exact moment of the attack. For much of the day, Komodo dragons rest under the shade of trees. Their cold-blooded bodies need the warmth of the sun to activate. But once their temperature reaches the right level, they become lethal hunters. Silently, they roam their territory, which can span several kilometers, looking for signs, fresh footprints, the scent of wounded prey, or even the trail of another dragon. When it finds its victim, it doesn't pounce immediately. The dragon is a master of stalking. It hides in the bushes, watching closely. It waits for the perfect moment. Its prey can be a deer, a wild boar, a monkey, or even a water buffalo. It doesn't have many preferences. If it's walking and breathing, it's edible. Then, the attack happens. With a speed that defies its size, the dragon lunges toward its target. Its jaw opens, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. The bite, while not always instantly lethal, is the beginning of the end. More than 50 species of bacteria live in its mouth. For a long time, it was believed that these bacteria were responsible for the slow death of its prey, but modern science has revealed an even more sinister secret. Venom. Komodo dragon has venom glands located in its lower jaw. This venom doesn't paralyze like a snake's, but it lowers the victim's blood pressure, prevents clotting, and causes progressive shock. The wounded animal flees, but every step it takes brings it closer to death. The dragon doesn't hurry. It follows from a distance, with the calmness of one who knows the end is inevitable. For hours, or even days, the weakened prey collapses. That's when the dragon returns. Guided by its prodigious sense of smell, it can detect the scent of rotten meat from more than 5 kilometers away. It doesn't matter whether it was responsible for the attack or another dragon. The important thing is that now the feast is served. Upon reaching the carcass, the dragon doesn't wait. It tears at the flesh with its teeth, devouring muscle, organs, and even bones. Its stomach is designed to digest almost anything. Nothing is wasted. When it's finished, only a few pieces remain scattered in the dust. And if another dragon arrives, the situation can become even wilder. Although they are solitary animals, food attracts many. And when several dragons gather around a carcass, cannibalism is not uncommon. The strongest eats first. The weakest may become the next victim. Even young dragons must be protected by adults. Upon birth, tiny Komodo dragons, no more than 40 centimeters long, quickly climb trees to avoid being eaten. They spend their first years there, feeding on insects, lizards, and small mammals. Only when they reach a respectable size do they descend to the ground, knowing that they are no longer prey, but hunters. Despite its ferocity, the Komodo dragon also faces threats. Habitat loss, forest fires, and human contact have reduced its population. Today it is estimated that fewer than 6,000 remain in the wild. Although they have been declared a vulnerable species, their survival depends on the active protection of their territories. Komodo National Park. Conservation efforts have helped keep these giants safe. Park rangers monitor their movements, control tourism, and educate local communities. But even here, the balance is delicate. The dragon, despite being an apex predator, is limited by food availability. In times of scarcity, clashes between individuals intensify. Competition becomes fierce. And when there are no deer, wild boar, or buffalo, even tourists must be careful. This is not a myth. There have been attacks on humans. Not because the dragon sees humans as its usual prey, but because, like any predator, it knows how to take advantage of any opportunity. Still, observing a Komodo dragon in its natural habitat is a breathtaking experience. Not just because of its size or its strength, but because of what it represents. A vestige of a forgotten era. A hunter that has survived everything from ice ages to human expansion. An animal that doesn't need to run to win. That doesn't need to roar to inspire fear. Its mere presence is a reminder that nature, when left unchecked, can create true monsters. The island falls silent again after his passage. The dust he kicked up settles back on the ground. The sun continues its course, and the shadows lengthen. The dragon lies back under a tree, satisfied, his stomach full, his tongue still tasting blood. For now, the hunter rests. But his reign continues. On Komodo, there is no king more feared than he. And as night falls and other animals seek shelter, one by one the sounds of wildlife fade away. Only the whisper of the wind, the rustling of dry vegetation, and, in the distance, the shuffling of a scaly body that, hungry or not, never stops watching. Because in Indonesia, the jungle never sleeps, and neither do predators. On the other hand, the island of Sumatra wakes up shrouded in a thick fog. The sky barely manages to filter through the tall, leafy canopy of the tropical rainforest, where the trees cling to the ground with colossal roots, as if unwilling to be uprooted from a world that breathes moisture and mystery. The constant sound of rain trickles through the giant ferns, moss-covered trunks, and mangroves that flood the surrounding landscape. Here, under the protection of the thicket, moves an almost invisible being. There are no roars or warnings, only a faint rustle among the leaves, a gaze that glides through the forest clearings like a ghost. It is the Sumatran tiger, the smallest, most elusive, and most secretive of all the tigers that exist on the face of the earth. Its body, although more compact than that of its Indian or Siberian relatives, is perfectly adapted to this environment. Its muscles are dense and powerful, its orange fur darker, dotted with black stripes that blend with the play of light and shadow cast by the branches on the ground. Everything about it has been sculpted by the jungle. The shape of its legs, ideal for the muddy terrain. Its long tail, which gives it balance among the trees. Its whiskers, which detect any movement in the deepest darkness. He hunts alone. He needs no company. He relies on silence as his best ally. Every step he takes is thoughtful. His pads adapt to the mud without leaving a trace. His claws, retracted, wait for the right moment. He moves among the bamboo as if he were part of it. The jungle, which would devour any other, seems to open up for him. The tiger feeds on anything that moves: sambar deer, wild boar, birds, even small reptiles. But its favorite target is large prey, those that challenge its strength, those that demand its patience. It stalks for hours, hidden, barely breathing, waiting for its victim's mistake. When that bug arrives, there is no warning. With a single leap, it can cover up to 10 meters. Its roar, if it chooses to make one, is the last sound its prey will ever hear. With its fangs, it bites into the nape of the neck, severing the spinal cord. In other cases, it chooses the throat, slowly suffocating its victim with a long, sustained bite until the body gives way and the forest falls silent again. Not all attacks are successful, but the tiger doesn't despair. It knows how to wait. It can travel for miles each night in search of food. If it doesn't find any, it fasts. It doesn't complain. The jungle has taught us that only the patient survive. When it finally catches prey, it drags it to a hidden spot. No eating in the open, no showing off. It hides to devour it alone among tangled roots or inside a damp cave. First, it consumes the nutrient-rich internal organs, then the muscles. If hunger compels it, it breaks the bones and chews the marrow. Every bite has its moment. Occasionally, another tiger prowls nearby. The encounter is unwelcome. Except during mating season, these cats tolerate no company. A steady stare, a deep growl, and if that's not enough, a short but violent battle ensues. Claws cross, fangs clash. One gives way, the other reasserts its dominance. The female, on the other hand, has a more complex relationship with her environment. She is a mother, hunter, and protector. When she gives birth, she usually has between 2 and 4 cubs, which are born blind and vulnerable. For the first few months, she remains close to them. She carries them if she senses danger, feeds them, and educates them. She teaches them to hunt not with words, but by example. She shows them how to stalk, how to wait, and how to kill. The survival rate is low. Many cubs die before reaching the age of 2. Some fall victim to disease, others fall into human hands, or they simply fail to learn enough to survive on their own. But those that do make it become new ghosts of the jungle. Despite its dominance, the tiger is not invulnerable. For centuries, it was revered by local communities. In the traditions of many Indonesian peoples, the tiger represents the balance between the visible and invisible worlds. But that sacred vision has faded. Today, the tiger's main enemy doesn't have claws or fangs. It has chainsaws. Deforestation in Sumatra continues unabated. Every year, thousands of hectares of forest disappear, replaced by oil palm plantations, roads, or agricultural areas. With each tree that falls, the tiger loses a hiding place, a food source, and a hunting route. And even worse, it is moving ever closer to human-inhabited areas. Encounters between tigers and villagers have become more frequent. Some end in tragedy, others in chases, traps, and shootings. Surviving tigers are relocated or caged. Those that don't become hanging skins, trophies of an ancient conflict that humans no longer try to prevent. Still, There are those fighting for their survival. Rangers, biologists, volunteers. They follow their footprints, set up cameras, study their habits. They try to understand what remains of their world, to save what little still breathes. Some protected areas have managed to maintain stable populations, but the path is uncertain. In the heart of Sumatra, where the vegetation forms a jade wall, tigers still walk unseen. Their gait is silent, their gaze ancient. They are the last guardians of a forest that refuses to die. The air smells of wet earth. A barely perceptible breeze stirs the leaves. In the distance, a deer stops, alert. It sees nothing, hears nothing, but it knows something is watching it. Somewhere in the shadows, the tiger has already made his choice. There's no hurry. The night is young, the jungle is alive, and so is it. The morning dawn barely touches the treetops in the tropical forests of Mindanao. The humidity forms a dense mist that slips like a whisper between the branches, covering the ground with a fog that seems to conceal an ancient secret. The murmur of insects mingles with the distant songs of birds, and everything seems immersed in a profound calm, broken only by the occasional creak of a branch breaking under the weight of wildlife. From high above, where the foliage barely lets in the light, a pair of piercing eyes watch. It's no simple bird. It's a hunter, one of the most lethal and majestic that evolution has produced. There's no doubt in its gaze, no fear, only calculation and certainty. There, perched on a high solitary branch, is the creature that rules the skies of this archipelago, the eagle. With its piercing amber eyes, powerful hooked beak, and distinctive plumage topped by a tuft of long feathers, this aerial predator commands respect without even moving. It can grow to over 1 meter in length from head to tail, and its outstretched wingspan can span up to 8 feet. But beyond its size, what makes this creature a living legend is its lethal prowess. Its hunting method is as silent as it is effective. From its high vantage point, the eagle scans the forest without missing a detail. It doesn't need to move to know what's happening hundreds of meters around it. Every vibration in the air, every rustle in the leaves, is interpreted by its keen instinct, and when it identifies its prey, death descends soundlessly. It usually hunts monkeys, small deer, reptiles, and birds. But it doesn't attack randomly. It waits, it analyzes, and then it launches into a vertical dive that could outrun a lightning bolt. Its claws, larger than a human hand, close like a steel trap on its victim's body. The impact is lethal. The claws pierce muscles, organs, and bones. There is no time to scream. There is no chance to escape. After capturing the bird, the eagle soars with its prey suspended in its talons, as if gravity had no effect. It then returns to its nest, a fortress of branches, leaves, and bones nestled high in the forest's oldest trees. There it feeds its young, sometimes alone, sometimes in the company of its mate. The bond between the two parents is strong and enduring. Together, they defend their territory, hunt, and raise their chicks. The nest is a sacred temple. Not just any tree is worthy of hosting it. It must be tall, sturdy, protected from the wind and prying eyes. The pair may reuse the same site for years, repairing, reinforcing, and expanding it. Each reproductive cycle is a long-term investment. And so, any threat to their tree is a direct threat to their lineage, and there is no shortage of threats. For centuries, the eagle was untouchable. Revered by local tribes, protected by the inaccessibility of its territory, it seemed destined to survive everything. But progress arrived without asking permission. Drills replaced birds, roads cut through the forests, and with them weapons. Today, the primary forests that once covered Mindanao are mere fragments. Every time a giant tree falls, not only does a plant die, but a potential home for this bird disappears. Illegal logging, agricultural expansion, and indiscriminate hunting have brought this magnificent predator to the brink of extinction. From a population that once stretched across several islands, only a few hundred individuals remain in the wild. And yet, it survives, in part thanks to its natural tenacity, but also thanks to the efforts of local groups who have dedicated their lives to preserving its existence. Organizations and conservation centers fight to keep the forests the eagle needs alive. Some even raise specimens in captivity in the hope of returning them to the wild. But nothing replaces the forest, and without it, this bird's flight could disappear forever. Despite its greatness, the eagle is not arrogant. It is cautious. It knows when to hunt and when to wait. It knows when to fly and when to hide. In an ecosystem where every day is a test, its intelligence is its greatest advantage. It can adapt. It can change its prey. It can move if the forest allows it. But she can't fight fire, chainsaws, or bullets alone. In that fight, she needs allies. Yet when it spreads its wings and soars through the skies, the world stops for a moment. There is no animal in the forest that doesn't know its silhouette. There is no creature that hasn't felt the ancestral fear its shadow evokes. Even humans, however arrogant, can't help but feel tiny in its presence. Watching her hunt is like observing nature itself at its finest. Precise, lethal, beautiful. It's a reminder that life isn't a right, but a daily achievement. That survival isn't inherited, it's fought for. And that even in an increasingly domesticated world, there are still beings who cling to the wild essence of the earth. High on a branch, the monkey remains motionless. The wind gently ruffles its feathers, its gaze unblinks. Below, a monkey moves through the trees, oblivious to its fate. The eagle rises, glides silently, and in less than a breath disappears into the mist. The forest falls silent. Only the leaves continue to fall. But if we go to the water, we can notice that it remains as still as a sheet of mercury. At first glance, the river appears peaceful, almost harmless. The reflection of the trees is drawn precisely on the surface, barely interrupted by the ripples formed by a fallen leaf or the occasional leap of a fish. However, beneath that perfect mirror, something is hidden. Something that makes no noise, that leaves no bubbles, that has perfected the art of stealth for longer than humanity can remember. Just below, among the reeds and submerged trunks, the motionless eyes of the saltwater crocodile watch. Its body, almost entirely hidden, blends in with the colors of its surroundings. Only its gaze stands out, fixed, attentive, patient. It doesn't need to move. It doesn't need to show strength, because its threat is silent, and by the time it acts, it's already too late. It can grow to over 6 meters long and weigh over 1,000 kilos, making it the largest reptile on the planet. Its skin is an armor of scales hardened by generations of evolution. Its jaws are a biological weapon capable of exerting pressure greater than that of any other known predator. And most feared of all, its intelligence. Because it doesn't act on impulse, it studies, waits, adapts. The mangroves of Southeast Asia are its cathedral. Murky waters, intertwined roots, shadows that hide more than they reveal. In this sanctuary of humidity and salt, the crocodile has learned to survive even the most extreme changes. It can move with equal ease in fresh, salt, or brackish water. It can go weeks without eating, reducing its metabolism to a minimum. It can stay underwater for more than an hour without coming up for air. And when it decides to emerge, it does so like an ancient ghost, reclaiming what is its own. Its diet is as varied as its environment. Fish, birds, crabs, monkeys, buffalo, wild boar, and even young sharks if the opportunity allows. But the method is always the same: ambush. There is no chase. There is no exhaustion. The crocodile doesn't run, doesn't scream, or expends unnecessary energy. It remains motionless for hours, even days, until its prey gives in. A deer approaches the riverbank to drink. It lowers its head. The water is still. Everything seems safe. Then, in a split second, the river erupts. A monstrous body violently emerges. The jaw snaps shut like a steel clamp. The deer doesn't even have time to make a sound before it's dragged underwater. There begins the true spectacle of death. The crocodile spins around with superhuman strength in a technique known as the death roll. This brutal movement tears flesh, breaks bones, and disorients its prey. The goal is not simply to kill, but to do so quickly, without resistance. Once the body sinks to the bottom, the reptile carries it to a safe place, often among submerged roots or flooded caves, where it will let it rest if it isn't already hungry. The flesh softens as it decomposes, making it easier to digest later. It rarely eats everything in one sitting. The crocodile is strategic. It feeds in portions, leaving remains floating in the water, which attracts scavengers and other secondary prey. Thus, one kill serves multiple purposes. When not hunting, it basks in the sun. Its body needs warmth to activate, and it can spend hours lying on sandbanks, seemingly asleep. But a single false step near its range is enough to awaken the hunter. It has developed an astonishing sensitivity to water vibrations. The slightest change in pressure is perceived by sensors distributed along its snout, allowing it to detect its prey without even seeing it. Despite its prehistoric appearance, it is not a primitive beast. Its brain, although small in proportion, allows it to make complex decisions. It knows when to attack and when to retreat. It recognizes behavioral patterns in its prey. It has even been observed using rudimentary tools, such as floating branches, to attract waterfowl during the nesting season. But this intelligence has also brought him conflicts. For centuries, humans have shared their territory with it, sometimes without even knowing it. Many local fishermen, bathers, and farmers have been surprised by unexpected attacks, always swift, always without warning. Some communities revere it as a guardian spirit of the rivers. Others fear it as a living curse. The truth is that no encounter with it is trivial. In some regions, attacks on humans have led to hunting campaigns that nearly wiped out local crocodile populations. But like any great predator, their disappearance came at a price. With their departure, prey grew uncontrollably in number, disrupting the entire ecosystem. The balance was disrupted, and nature took notice. Today, efforts are underway to conserve this giant. In protected areas such as Indonesia's national parks, their movements are monitored using GPS collars. Their habits are studied, and efforts are made to foster a less violent coexistence with nearby communities. However, fear persists, and not without reason. An adult crocodile can live more than 60 years. It can remember routes, prey, and past ambushes. It can learn to avoid traps, recognize human sounds, and modify its behavior according to its environment. It's not just a creature of instinct. It's a dark water strategist, a ghost that has quietly evolved to become the perfect killer. And when night falls on the estuaries, when the terrestrial world fades away and the sounds of the water take center stage, her silhouette emerges as part of the landscape. No rush, no effort, just the certainty that the river belongs to her. Under the moon, everything returns to normal. Fireflies light up the branches, bats soar across the sky, monkeys sleep among the leaves, confident in the height. But down below, where the mud mixes with the salt water and silence reigns, the crocodile waits. Because in Indonesia, even the water holds secrets, and some of them have teeth. Re-entering the jungle, its intense humidity breathes with a slow rhythm. The tall branches intertwine like gigantic fingers, forming a natural roof that barely lets in light. The ground is covered with a carpet of withered leaves, gnarled roots, and remnants of past lives. In this humid and dense world, every sound tells a story. Every creak holds a purpose. In the distance, a dry howl breaks the silence. It's not a solitary wail, but the announcement of an imminent hunt. Reddish shadows glide through the thick vegetation. Bright eyes, wet snouts, muscular and agile bodies. They are the dholes, also known as Asiatic wild dogs. They are not wolves, nor domestic dogs, nor jackals. They are a class of their own. social, intelligent, swift hunters. And in the forests of Southeast Asia, few can match their effectiveness. A solitary dhole doesn't pose a great danger, but none of them hunt alone. They always hunt in groups, like a finely tuned orchestra playing a deadly symphony. The pack, composed of a dozen or more individuals, acts as a unit. Each one knows its role. There is no visible leader, no shouts or commands, only coordinated movements, a glance that suffices, synchronized noses. Unlike other canids that rely on size or brute strength, the dhole relies on strategy. Its technique is based on exhaustion. They stalk their prey for miles, never letting it rest. They take turns taking turns. While some push it from the flanks, others lie in wait ahead. If the victim hides, they surround it. If it flees, they follow it relentlessly. Sooner or later, the body gives way. Their most common prey is the sambar deer, an agile herbivore, but limited in stamina. In the heat of pursuit, the dholes make no sound. They run with their mouths closed, their eyes fixed, their muscles tense. If one falls, another takes its place. They are tenacious, tireless, calculating. And when the deer finally falls, there is no hesitation. They charge forward as a group, tearing at flesh, satisfying their hunger with surgical precision. But it's not all blood. The pack has its own social dynamic. There's affection, play, and loyalty among them. They greet each other by rubbing their bodies and licking each other's snouts. They care for their young as a community, not just as parents. When one is injured, the others protect it. And if a pup is orphaned, the pack takes care of it. Their communication is rich and varied. They use howls, squeals, soft barks, and deep growls. Each sound has a purpose: to warn of a threat, coordinate a hunt, call cubs, or simply reaffirm the bond. Unlike other carnivores that prefer isolation, dholes thrive on togetherness. Their appearance is deceptive. They are smaller than the average wolf, with long legs, a slender body, and rounded ears. Their reddish fur makes them seem harmless, almost friendly. But beneath that appearance lies a machine perfectly designed for survival. Their jaws, although shorter than those of other canids, are incredibly powerful. Their fangs are curved backward, ideal for gripping slippery meat. Their sense of smell can detect prey from several kilometers away, and their endurance makes them true forest marathoners. When they're not hunting, they spend time resting and exploring. They lie among the roots, groom each other, or simply lie in the sun if they can find a clearing in the thicket. Cubs play, nibble on branches, and rehearse mock ambushes. They learn by imitating adults, observing every movement, every reaction. There is no more effective school than life itself. But its existence is not without danger. Competition with other predators is constant. In the same territories where dholes hunt, tigers, leopards, pythons, and crocodiles also roam. In a direct encounter, they rarely emerge victorious. That's why they prefer to avoid them. Their strategy is to evade, not confront. But if one of their own is attacked, the pack can become an army ready for anything. Beyond natural competition, the real enemy is humans. The fragmentation of their habitat has dramatically reduced their hunting routes. Roads cut off their trails. Villages expand over former wild corridors. Cattle replace deer, and when the dholes approach villages, they are hunted down like pests. In many areas, their numbers have declined alarmingly. Hunting, trapping, and poisoning by farmers have decimated entire populations. Unlike other species that manage to partially adapt to the human environment, the dhole needs space. It needs freedom to move, hunt, and breed. And every hectare of forest lost is a silent death sentence for the herd. However, there are still regions where they survive strongly. In the most remote national parks, where the forest still rules, the dholes continue to hunt as they have for millennia. There, among ancient trees and hidden rivers, their howls resonate in the distance, like an ancestral echo that refuses to fade. Their role in the ecosystem is crucial. They control herbivore populations, maintaining the natural balance. Where dholes disappear, deer multiply unchecked, destroying vegetation and affecting the rest of the fauna. They are not just hunters. They are regulators, silent guardians of an order that few understand. As the sun begins to descend over the forest canopy, the herd rises. One by one, their ruddy bodies rise, stretch, and sniff each other. A new journey begins. Perhaps they won't find prey tonight. Perhaps they will. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they're together, that they're still moving, that the forest still belongs to them. And so, without a sound, they disappear into the undergrowth. Their footprints remain etched in the mud for a few minutes, until the rain washes everything away. But their presence persists, invisible, but always close. Faceless hunters, wanderers of the deep green. In Indonesia, where the jungle still holds secrets, the dhole remains one of the deadliest. Later, night falls like a damp curtain over the jungle. There's no moon visible, only a sky covered in dense clouds that further obscure the thicket. In the distance, frogs begin their concert. Crickets join in with irregular rhythms, and some nocturnal bird lets out a brief cry before returning to silence. All seems calm. But it's precisely now, when darkness reigns, that the true hunter awakens. Gliding noiselessly through the wet leaves, a long, muscular figure moves with pinpoint precision. There are no legs, no claws, no wings, just muscles, scales, fixed eyes, and a tongue that darts in and out like a hypersensitive sensor. The reticulated python has emerged from its hiding place. Its body can exceed 7 meters in length. It is proportionally slender, but no less powerful. Every coil of its anatomy is designed to exert force, not to cut, not to tear, but to squeeze, to suffocate, to envelop its prey in an embrace from which there is no escape. It possesses no venom, nor does it need to. Its power lies in its patience. It hides for hours, motionless, among roots, fallen leaves, or low branches. Its skin, adorned with a geometric pattern of brown, green, and gold, blends perfectly with the ground. It can wait all night if necessary, because it doesn't chase. It ambushes. A rat passes by. The python doesn't move. Then, a ground bird ventures among the fallen branches. The snake watches it, but remains motionless. It's patient. It's waiting for something bigger. Its real target is a wild boar, or perhaps a wild dog. Even if the opportunity presents itself, an unsuspecting monkey or a young deer, the python isn't in a hurry because it knows the moment will come. When it happens, there is no warning. The attack is a lashing of flesh and muscle. The python lunges in a straight line, guided by its forked tongue, which captures particles in the air and allows it to smell from a distance. Its jaws open, not to bite, but to grasp. At the same instant, the rest of its body coils around its prey. There is no sound, only the faint cracking of ribs yielding under the pressure. With each exhalation from the victim, the snake tightens its grip. It doesn't do so out of rage, but with the exact logic of an evolutionarily perfected predator. It doesn't seek to destroy. It only seeks to snuff out life slowly, without waste, without error. In a matter of minutes, the body stops moving. Then the next phase begins. The python unhinges its jaw, which isn't rigidly fixed like other animals. Its mouth can open wider than imaginable. It begins to swallow its prey gradually, sliding it inside without chewing. Its saliva lubricates every inch of the process. It takes hours, sometimes more than a day, but it doesn't stop. The entire animal enters, whole, down to the bones. Then the python disappears. It seeks a warm, safe place to rest for days or even weeks. Its digestion is slow but effective. Its enzymes break down everything: flesh, skin, organs. Only a few indigestible remains will be expelled later. Meanwhile, its body will barely move. The feast is over. The wait begins again. Although they generally avoid contact with humans, encounters are not uncommon. The expansion of towns and farms has brought pythons into urbanized areas. Occasionally, they have been found in barns, under rural homes, and even inside chicken coops. Some feed on small livestock. which generates conflicts with local communities. In extreme cases, attacks on humans have been reported. Although rare, they are possible. A sufficiently large python can engulf a human as efficiently as it would a wild boar. The reaction to these encounters is predictable: fear, persecution, retaliation. Many are captured and sold. Others are simply eliminated. Their shiny, resilient skin is highly valued in the fashion market. But what is lost with each death is more than just a snake. It is a key part of the ecosystem. The python regulates rodent populations, helps control pests, and maintains the balance in the natural cycle of prey and predator. Its existence is discreet, but vital. Without it, the forest changes. Prey multiply, crops suffer, and the balance is disrupted. Despite its size, the reticulated python is vulnerable. Illegal hunting, habitat loss, and wildlife trafficking constantly threaten it. In many areas of Indonesia, its numbers have declined. Although it is not formally endangered, its presence in the wild is becoming increasingly rare. Only in the most remote areas, where the forest still imposes its silence, can it live in relative tranquility. There, far from human noise, it continues its age-old routine. It hunts unseen. It creeps without a trace. It hides under hollow trunks among dead leaves near waterways. It is a creeping ghost, a shadow that glides between life and death. When the night thickens even further, when the sounds of the jungle become sharper, its presence becomes more intense. Not because it can be seen, but because it can be sensed. Because in some dark corner, there is a body coiling, waiting, listening, and when the time comes, it will attack. In Indonesia, where the jungle never sleeps, the python is a constant presence. It makes no noise, it leaves no trace, but it's always there. Vigilant, silent, lethal. Off-land, sunlight pierces the sea surface like liquid spears sinking into a silent, shimmering world. Just below, among the corals that expand like living cathedrals, life unfolds in all its forms. Impossibly colorful fish swim among anemones. Sea turtles float as if dancing, and entire schools of sardines move in unison, forming constantly transforming silver clouds. But something else moves between the crevices of the reef. Something faster, more focused. Its silhouette is unmistakable, sharp, elegant, ancient. A black-tip reef shark patrols the edges of the coral, turning with precise movements, as if tracing invisible lines that delimit its territory. It doesn't need to announce itself. Its mere presence is enough to trigger a chain reaction. The fish scatter, the silence thickens. This shark, while not the largest or most violent, perfectly represents the efficiency of a marine predator. Its body is agile and streamlined, rarely exceeding 2 meters in length, yet equipped with perfect musculature for lightning attacks. Its black fins are its trademark, visible even from a distance. But the most impressive thing is the way it blends into its surroundings. One moment it's there, the next it's gone. It doesn't hunt out of blind hunger. It does so out of necessity, and it does so strategically. It feeds on smaller fish, cephalopods, and crustaceans. It often prowls the edges of the reef where the depth changes abruptly and currents drag unsuspecting prey. There among the shadows and coral columns, it hides and waits. It can move in total silence, using its sensory detection system to perceive the electrical impulses emitted by any living organism. Nothing escapes its biological radar. It can sense a heartbeat beneath the sand, a muscle twitching among the corals, the quiver of a fin in the darkness. When it finds its target, it acts with brutal speed. It lunges forward in a split second, strikes and retreats. It doesn't need a second chance. The attacks are brief and effective. The victim barely has time to react. One bite, two at most. Then the shark disappears again into the vastness. In many cases, the prey didn't even see it coming, because this hunter doesn't impose itself on size but on precision. Unlike other sharks, the black-tip shark usually hunts in small groups. It moves alongside other individuals of its own species, taking advantage of confusion and teamwork to disrupt schools of fish. This technique is especially useful in the early morning or at dusk, when the light is dimmer and reflections in the water make it difficult to see prey. But it's not all hunting. There are also moments of calm, of tranquil movement among the underwater gardens. The shark patrols its territory like a perpetual sentinel. It knows everything, every crevice, every cave, every nook and cranny where a wounded fish might hide. It travels not out of routine, but as a reassertion of its dominance. Despite their reputation for fearsomeness, the black-tip reef shark rarely poses a real danger to humans. They are curious, yes. They approach, circle around divers, and examine with their acute senses, but they rarely attack unprovoked. What may seem like a threat to some is simply investigation for the shark. Its world is one of instinct. It doesn't hate. It doesn't fear. It just acts. However, their fate is threatened by a species that does act with excess, with carelessness, with greed. Humans have decimated entire shark populations for their meat, their fins, or simply out of fear. Reefs that once vibrated with their presence now feel emptier. Where there was balance, there is now excess. Some fish grow unchecked, others disappear. Because in the marine ecosystem, the shark is not a monster, it is a regulator, an essential piece of the puzzle. The damage isn't just direct. Pollution, uncontrolled tourism, and the destruction of coral reefs also have a profound impact. Every anchor that falls on a reef, every fishing net that drags everything in its path, every waste dumped into the ocean affects the delicate balance that has taken millions of years to establish. Even so, there are places where the black-tip reef shark endures. In protected marine parks, in coastal sanctuaries where fishing has been limited and diving has been regulated, it returns to patrol as it once did. In these places, nature breathes a little more freely. And underwater, its silhouette once again emerges with force. The behavior of these sharks is as predictable as it is fascinating. They return to the same hunting grounds. They follow subtle migratory patterns based on water temperature and the presence of prey. Their young are born alive, ready to swim, to hide, to survive from the first moment. They receive no care, no parental bond, just instinct, and that's enough. Watching them in their environment is like watching a shadow dance among the reflections on the surface. There's no clumsiness, no hesitation. Every movement has a purpose. Every turn is part of a choreography that combines strength, grace, and knowledge. They are masters of the water, not by imposition, but by natural right. As the sun begins to set and the surface takes on golden hues, the sharks intensify their activity. The reef transforms. Colors change, sounds are muffled, and prey become more vulnerable. It's the perfect time to hunt. The sharks glide closer to the edge, gather in groups, and speed up their movements. In the twilight, their silhouettes become part of the seascape. And then, when darkness falls completely, they disappear again. They don't go far. They just hide. They remain on the move, silent, alert. Because in Indonesia, even under the sea, predators never rest. But surprisingly, dawn in Indonesia's forests begins not with light, but with sound. Before the first ray of sunlight filters through the giant leaves of palms and strangler figs, the jungle is filled with whispers, imperceptible rustles, and short calls that seem to float in the air like barely uttered warnings. On this threshold between night and day, a special kind of hunter moves. Those who don't need to roar, run, or attract attention. They are silent predators, masters of stealth and precision. On the bank of a shallow river, where the vegetation forms a dense wall that hides even the most attentive eye, a pair of yellow eyes open silently. They sit high on a branch, almost imperceptible, perfectly aligned with the surroundings. A fishing owl has awakened. It doesn't need to flap its wings. It only tilts its head slightly, scanning the water as if it could see through it. Blackiston's owl, although best known for inhabiting cold regions of northern Asia, has close relatives that dominate the tropical ecosystems of Southeast Asia. These nocturnal birds of prey have a specialization uncommon among their peers. They feed on fish. With a patience worthy of the best human fishermen, they sit on branches for hours, motionless, waiting for the exact moment a fish approaches the surface. Their legs are adapted for this task. They are strong, thick, and have curved, hook-sharp claws. At the slightest flash of light underwater, they dart forward with surgical precision. They don't dive completely. Their talons enter the water with lightning speed, grab the fish, and the bird takes flight without stopping. The silence is absolute. Nothing disturbs the stillness of the forest, except the splash of a surprised victim. These birds don't hunt on impulse. They observe, analyze, and memorize the places where fishing is most abundant. Every tree along the river can be a lookout point, every backwater a potential feeding site. And when they find a favorable area, they return night after night. Meanwhile, among the highest branches of the canopy, another hunter lurks, not from the sky, but among the leaves. A green tree snake slithers slowly along a narrow branch. Its body is long and thin, covered with scales that barely reflect the light, taking on the exact color of its surroundings. If you don't see it moving, it's impossible to distinguish it from a simple vine. The snake doesn't crawl like its terrestrial relatives. It moves gracefully, using its muscles to hug the contours of branches and advance without apparent effort. Its target is not the ground, but among the nests. It hunts young birds, eggs, and small mammals that venture too far from the safety of the group. Its attack is lightning fast. When its prey is close enough, it thrusts its head forward in a swift, straight movement. It sinks its fangs, injects venom, and then waits. The venom is not lethal to humans, but it is to its small prey. It paralyzes, disrupts balance, and stops heartbeats. Once the victim is immobilized, the snake swallows it whole, sliding it down its throat with gentle, muscular movements. It then remains in place, coiled among the leaves, resting while it digests, becoming a part of the landscape. These snakes are masters of camouflage, but also of calculation. They don't hunt by immediate instinct. They study, they remember, they learn birds' schedules, the weak spots in nests, the routes used by bats or small flying rodents. Each attack is the product of analysis, of silent planning. The two predators, the owl and the snake, rarely cross paths. They inhabit the same forest, but operate on different planes. One dominates the air, the other the canopy. Both, however, share the same philosophy: hunting as an art, not a spectacle, patience as a weapon, silence as an advantage. And they also share the same threats. Deforestation doesn't just destroy trees. It destroys homes, eliminates strategic hunting grounds, and disrupts the food chains that allow these species to exist. Without tall trees, the owl can't keep watch. Without intertwined branches, the snake can't stalk. Without prey, both lose their purpose. Furthermore, their hunting style makes them particularly vulnerable to human interference. Artificial lights disorient nocturnal birds. The noise of motors scares away animals that are part of their diet. Aggressive pruning eliminates tree corridors crucial for snakes. And in the case of owls, many are hunted out of superstition or simple ignorance. Yet they persist. In the most untouched corners of the forest, where rivers still flow freely and trees rise like ancient towers, these creatures continue their silent dance. The owl returns each night to its favorite branch. The snake roams the treetops like a weightless shadow. The forest has shaped them for millions of years, and as long as a fragment of it remains, they will continue to live their role. When the first light of day begins to filter through the leaves, the owl hides in the darkness of a crevice or a hollow trunk. The snake, satiated, coils between two branches, motionless. Activity stops. The daytime world takes over. But when the sun goes down again, when the bustle of monkeys and songbirds gives way to the subtle rustling of the sleeping forest. They will awaken again. They will hunt again. They will once again claim their place among Indonesia's most discreet predators. Deep in the tropical forest, where fallen leaves crunch under the weight of invisible creatures, and the air thickens with humidity and pheromones, there exists a world that goes unnoticed by most. It is a miniature universe, where there are no roars or ambushes of big cats, but where every encounter can end in death. A realm of meticulous hunting, of calculated movements, of silent violence. Here, predators weigh no more than a few grams, but their lethality is absolute. On a low branch, motionless like a living statue, a praying mantis observes patiently. Its body resembles a green leaf, with jagged edges simulating wear, blending perfectly into the foliage. Its front legs, folded as if in prayer, conceal a secret. They are armed with sharp spines designed to catch and hold firmly. Its compound eyes scan the environment with mathematical precision. Nothing escapes its field of vision. A small insect flies by, perhaps an unsuspecting fly. The mantis doesn't move, it waits. Only its antennae vibrate in the breeze, gauging distances. And suddenly, in a movement so swift the human eye barely perceives it, its legs shoot forward, snatch the target, and immobilize it. It holds it in its claws as if studying it, assessing it. Then with disturbing slowness it begins to devour it while it's still alive. The mantis doesn't just kill for food, it also kills for reproduction. During mating, the larger female often decapitates the male while copulating. She does this without anger or drama. It's a natural, cold, and efficient act. The male's body continues to transmit sperm even after he loses his head. His sacrifice guarantees fertilization. His death provides an impetus for new life. This behavior, which might seem cruel, is part of impeccable evolutionary logic. In an environment where every resource counts, where energy is limited and competition is fierce, nothing is wasted. The female gains additional nutrients. The offspring have a greater chance of success, and the cycle continues. But the mantis isn't the only lethal queen of the tropical microcosm. At the other end of the spectrum, more aggressive and more disturbing, is the Asian giant hornet. With its robust body and warning colors, bright yellow and black, this creature commands respect not because of its size, but because of its attitude. It's tireless, territorial, and methodical. And when it feels threatened, it attacks without hesitation. Its long, curved stinger can easily penetrate the skin of almost any animal. The sting is not only painful, it injects a cocktail of toxins that can cause necrosis, paralysis, and in some cases death. But what truly makes it fearsome isn't its venom, but its structure. These wasps don't hunt randomly. They go out on patrol. They track down native beehives, and when they find them, they launch a coordinated offensive. A single scout wasp can mark a hive with pheromones. It then returns with reinforcements. The wasps attack in groups, decapitating the defending bees and plundering the hive to feed their larvae with the bee offspring. They do it with military efficiency. There's no chaos. Each individual knows what to do. In a matter of hours, an entire colony can be destroyed. Not for food, but for reproductive strategy. Their goal is to strengthen their nest, ensure the survival of their offspring, and dominate the territory. Unlike mantises, which act alone, wasps function as a conscious swarm. Their chemical communication is so precise it resembles telepathy. A signal can trigger a chain reaction. A threat can mobilize dozens. An intrusion can unleash a massacre. And yet both share something in common. They are necessary. Mantises control populations of herbivorous insects that could devastate the vegetation. Wasps regulate the number of bees, caterpillars, and other smaller insects. Both are part of an invisible but vital mechanism. Where they hunt, balance flourishes. Their existence ensures that the forest doesn't collapse under the weight of a single dominant species. But that balance is on the verge of collapse. The indiscriminate use of pesticides has decimated insect populations throughout Asia. Mantises no longer find prey as easily. Wasps, having lost their natural food sources, are increasingly moving closer to urban areas, where their presence is seen as an immediate threat. They are persecuted, exterminated, and misunderstood. And yet they keep hunting. On the edges of cultivated fields, among the gardens bordering villages, in secondary forests where a few old trees still survive, these hunters keep their ancestral tradition alive. The mantis waits, stalks, and acts with the elegance of a predator that has survived without needing to evolve much. The wasp flies over its territory with the arrogance of one who knows it has no direct rival. Both reflect a world that operates by different rules. A world where size doesn't define danger. Where the microscopic can be more lethal than the gigantic. Where the art of killing is executed discreetly, with technique, without spectacle. At the end of the day, when the heat subsides and the golden light caresses the leaves from a low angle, the sounds of the forest change. The birds stop. The mammals seek shelter. The large predators prepare for the night. But in the branches, under the leaves, between the cracks of the trunks, the hunt has already begun. Silently, uninterrupted. In the early morning light, when the mist begins to lift from the treetops and the first rays of sunlight cast a golden tinge over the murky waters of the mangroves, everything seems calm. The forest, the sea, the mountains, all landscapes are bathed in a deceptive stillness, as if nature had exhaled deeply for a moment and remained silent. But beneath that serene surface, life continues its eternal cycle. A cycle where every creature, large or small, seeks its place, defends its territory, and pursues its food. A cycle where death is not a tragedy, but part of an unbreakable balance. The balance between prey and predator. In Indonesia, this balance is expressed with brutal beauty. A tiger glides through the shadows, leaving no trace, searching for solitary prey. A Komodo dragon stalking with the calm of one who knows that patience is its greatest asset. A python embracing the darkness until the exact moment of its attack. A shark swirling like a liquid shadow at the edges of the reef. They all respond to the same call, the need to feed, to survive, to keep a chain of life woven with invisible threads going. But this balance isn't static, it's constantly shifting. Each species plays a specific role, and if one of those links disappears, everything else falters. If the eagle disappears, herbivores multiply uncontrollably and destroy vegetation. If the spotted eagle becomes extinct, primates lose their main natural regulator. If crocodiles abandon the rivers, other species haphazardly take their place. Nothing is isolated. Everything is connected. Even micropredators perform essential functions. Mantises prevent destructive insects from invading crops. Wasps keep populations that could become pests in check. Tree snakes maintain the delicate balance between the species that inhabit the treetops. In the natural world, there are no unnecessary killers. Every predator is, in essence, a guardian. The most astonishing thing is that despite their strength, all wild hunters face threats far greater than any prey. Human impact. Deforestation continues to devour thousands of hectares of forest each year. Fires set to clear agricultural land not only destroy trees but also homes, burrows, nests, and migratory routes. Roads cut through biological corridors, separating herds and isolating populations. Polluted rivers poison fish, birds, and amphibians, and behind every action, there is a silent consequence. Some animals manage to adapt. They modify their habits, change their hunting schedules, and explore new territories, but others cannot. They are intimately tied to their original habitat, and when they lose it, they also lose their place in the world. Tigers that approach villages do so not out of aggression, but out of hunger. Crocodiles that attack in tourist areas do so not out of choice, but because their rivers have been invaded. Sharks that disappear do so because of indiscriminate fishing, not because they have given up. And yet, in the midst of this storm, nature endures. There are still places in Indonesia where the rainforest remains intact, where volcanoes still roar above a blanket of virgin forest, where reefs still glow with the impossible colors of living coral, where owls still hunt at dawn and snakes slither unseen, places where predators still reign without permission. There, the roar of a tiger isn't a threat, it's a declaration, a reminder that the earth has a voice of its own. The flight of an eagle isn't a threat, it's an ancient dance that has been perfected over the years. Even the buzzing of a wasp, or the crackle of a branch as a praying mantis passes remind us that the world wasn't made just for humans. True beauty lies in that silent balance, in that constant pulse between death and life. Not in the static, not in the artificial, but in the perpetual dance between those who run and those who chase, between those who stalk and those who hide. There is no justice or injustice in this cycle, only necessity. And it's that need that drives predators to exist. Not out of malice, not out of sadism. They hunt because they must. Because their existence depends on keeping alive a natural structure that sustains us all, even if we don't see it. In Indonesia, every tree, every rock, every drop of water is connected to this network. And every animal, from the dragon to the smallest insect, plays a role. So protecting them isn't just an act of compassion, it's an act of collective survival. Because when the last roar dies away, when the last shadow disappears among the trees, when the sea becomes silent and the branches no longer shake with the passing of the hunters, it won't just be a species we've lost. It will be a part of us, a wild part, a wise part, a part we may never know how to recover. And so, as the sun rises over the mountains and the sounds of the day replace the whispers of the night, life in Indonesia goes on. In every corner of the archipelago, something hunts, something flees, something resists. Because in this place, like nowhere else, nature never forgets who's in charge. And whether its guardians walk on all fours, crawl, or fly among the clouds, their message is clear. Here, everything that breathes struggles to stay alive. And in that struggle, predators are the first to remind us that without them, the jungle isn't a jungle, the sea isn't a sea, and the world simply stops beating.